Hi.
Welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. This is Tammy White, the CEO and founder of the Bobby White Foundation, and she is along with Bonnie Snyder, her co-host.
Take two.
So if you're wondering what's going on, because we're normally not really this befuddled, but we're doing like a take two of our show today. It's funny because the guy behind the control board, Rob, we love Rob to death. But here we are, in the middle of taping, and we're like maybe 10 minutes in, and our air conditioner unit kicked on, and on tape it sounded like there was a freight train running through here. So Rob, politely cut. We need to do this all over again. And kind of, not that it took us off our game.
No, it is funny because
it is funny. So he's like, and we're like, we're still going to talk about it.
Yeah, he's like, oh no.
We're very, as you guys know, those of you that have been with us now, we're in our second year. How this is completely unscripted. You never know what you get, and I love the ability that we have to. Take a topic that's so difficult for some people to talk about it and make it fun.
Well, we want to try and lighten things up a little bit.
Mind you, not that suicide is fun. Just to make sure we understand
well,
that.
we were excited about grief a couple weeks ago. So
we were.
Oh, and you know what? Remember I told you that a gal texted me right when I got home. What we were talking about is when we met with Dr. Wolfeld at a grief seminar a couple weeks ago. Actually, we had an episode a couple weeks ago that we pretty much talked about the whole thing the whole time. Anyway, we were at a meeting today, and she came up to me and she goes, "Well, did you go? What did you think?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You texted me about it right when I just got home from it," and I told her, what happened and stuff. So it was really pretty cool because she has gone to a couple of seminars before the whatever COVID thing.
And the thing I liked about that particular seminar, besides the fact that I hadn't gone to one of his seminars before. I mean, love his books. What I liked about it was his presentation. And I was blown away by the fact that was a sponsored free seminar.
Right.
And as I'm looking at his presentation and everything like that, I'm like, I would so pay.
Oh, most.
To attend a seminar. But it was interesting because we were in a staff meeting, at my regular, I keep saying my regular work.
Your real job.
No, this is not a job. I don't consider this a job. This is a passion. But I was in a staff meeting, actually I would say earlier this week, and my supervisor was talking about just stuff in general, and in the midst of it, self-help came up, self-help, self-care, not self-help, self-care came up, and I was like, that reminded me, because the kids are in spring break,
Oh, that's right, it is
spring break week this week. So I looked at my supervisor and I said, I just wanted to let you know that, I went to this awesome seminar, and I told her, who this is, because she is always reminding me, about, self-care and, slowing down and, tapping the brakes. I'm a workaholic, and I don't always, and this is just kind of who I am. It is very, I shouldn't say it has little to do with, when I'm dealing with stuff, but I've always been a workaholic by nature. However, I will concede that when things are crappy, I do go into hyperdrive. But anyway, I told her, I said, so now Dr. Wolford is world-renowned as an expert in the field of grief. And as he was talking about self-care, he said, we should take 2 to 3 naps a day. And I purposely took a picture of the slide, to send to you. And so in my supervisor's office, she has, a couch. And I said, so can we put a sign-up sheet in your office and, take turns coming into your office to, take a nap during the day. And I love my supervisor. She's an amazing, she's an amazing boss lady. I mean, very, very, very cool to work for. And she was like, absolutely. Now, whether or not she was joking, I don't know, but she was like, at any time you guys want to come in here and take a nap, come on in. As long as she doesn't have a meeting or something going on. But, when I saw that, I was like, I am so going to go tell her.
Oh, yeah.
That, it is recommended by an expert in the field to take 2 to 3 naps a day. So if I take my, depending on what time I get in the office, but then I'm like, I'm not in the office all I'm more field-based. But I'm thinking of my day I'm in the office, all right, so I want the 11 o'clock slot, and I want the 2 o'clock slot, and then I'll go home and, maybe or maybe not take, I'm not a nap person. But
I'm not really a nap person either. I will meditate. And sometimes that turns into a nap. But, yeah, so kind of back to our regular
back to regular scheduled programming,
We still do want to thank Rob and Dylan and Cage and John for helping us do all this stuff so that we can still have fun and deal with a difficult subject. And we thank you guys, and we appreciate you and your support, whether it's watching us, sharing our show, liking us on Facebook, sharing our posts on Facebook, commenting. And if you want it, please be a little bit more of the process, if you want to comment on some of the stuff or, participate with the book that we're reviewing, go along through that with us. When we get into that here in a little bit, got some really cool stuff from the book. So, but, and also we want to thank the Hilton Garden Inn. The funny thing is that we've already done this before, but
we always remember to thank our sponsors.
Yes, we want to thank our sponsors. And we will be having our 5th annual Art for Hope at the Hilton Garden Inn. Tentatively, I think pretty much the date is going to be September 8th is what I said, at that venue, where we already have 3 of our artists, local artists, their works are on display there. 2 of the artists, their works are donated, that are on display there are donated for the foundation, so the purchase of those artworks, the proceeds will go to the foundation. And one of the artists, like I said earlier, I wanted to give a shout out to him and his wife, Neil Adamson. He's a Florida artist that he does Florida type art. We have over a half a dozen of his pieces, limited edition pieces, at the hotel. But he's been in the hospital for the last couple of months, and he's been struggling, and so I want to send out prayers and well wishes to him and his wife Jean. It's been a really difficult time, and he's a national and international award-winning watercolor artist. He's won so many awards, and he has some of his original pieces. I am thinking, but I'm probably wrong. I know they're at a U.S. embassy in South Africa. I don't know if it's Kenya. That comes to mind. I have the paperwork at the office, but anyways, 3, at least, I think there are 3 of his originals, maybe 4, are hanging at the U.S. embassy, and they'll be there. I think they're contracted for a couple more years there.
Nice.
But you can take a look at his work and the other artist's work out at the hotel anytime. What else? We have a T-shirts.
Yeah, we have, our, the other ways that you can support us. We have the kindness page, which you can donate in various amounts. Some presets. There's one where you can decide yourself what you want to donate. There's the QR code there for that. We have for us frequent flyers on Amazon. This smile.amazon.com. Pick the foundation as your charity of choice. You're not giving, and I hate to put it in terms of you're not spending anything extra. However, I do know that, in these, times, everybody talks about inflation going up and everything else like that. But I know that sometimes, we would love to give more than what we are able.
Correct.
And we understand that. And so I like that, places like, or, organizations or companies like Amazon have had a built-in way to, you're not, we're just taking a part of what you're spending on whatever it is you're purchasing and donating that to, the foundation you choose. So I love that Amazon has that built in.
And actually, we just got the bank statement, and we got a deposit from Amazon the other day. So that was really nice.
Yeah. Then, of course, we have our T-shirts, that you can purchase, both the crew and the V-neck. Crew, as we say, crew is more of the male cut. V-neck more the female in the two designs. Again, the, two designs, first one, think purple folder. Second design, think the show. Although when I look at them both, I think we were in the development stage of, the show when the first design came out. And
yeah, that was at the very beginning.
Yeah, and I think I typically, not that one, Rob, the other one, the one with the hands. That's our second one. You got the first one there?
No.
He's usually on it. It'll pop up. It'll pop up when we don't expect it.
Well, and we have a couple other designs too that probably by the time we have Art for Hope, we may add 2 more designs.
Nice.
And so we'll have all those. We'll have them all available too at the fundraiser.
There we go. There's our first one.
That was the first one that we did.
And, when I look at that one, even though I know it's just the intent was for the purple folder, what's the word I'm looking for? Initiative to the foundation. I always equate it back to the show because of hope and the two hands, because again we were developing the show, like the purple folder was already in progress,
right? Yes.
And then the show, but I do like the theme, the two themes, and I mean I think I have 2 of each T-shirts in both. One in crew and one in the V. And depending upon what I'm doing, depends on which one I wear or how I feel.
Yeah, and you can purchase them from our directly from our supplier, and they'll ship them out to you. And people will ask you, "What is it?" And then that's another way of sharing, the information that we bring you and the foundation and. Like that, I can wear one every day of the week, but and they're really comfortable. So, I think that's pretty much that. I still am working on getting. We will have another way that you can help support, a quick way that we'll have a specific. I think it's a specific phone number that you can text to donate. So by next week's show, we'll have that information up so that Rob can put that information up. But remember, we share all this stuff too sometimes during the week on our Facebook pages. Like even our happy quote for the day or positive quote for the day, I'll put it up after, the show. So all of that, you can get that information separately too. So you don't, if you don't want to, you can just watch the show all over again. But if you don't want to, most of the information and specific things will be on the Facebook page too.
Oh, I will freely admit there are times that there's certain episodes that I have watched, like, again. And someone asked me, one time, do you watch the show? And I tell them there's a couple that I have watched. I'm freely admit there are a couple that I have not watched, and it's not because well, you tape the show and you don't watch it. I was like, I don't watch it because I taped it.
Well, there's, if you think about it though, when a lot of movie stars or other television people, they admit they don't watch themselves on TV.
But I find sometimes that, there are, like I said, there's, several shows that we have done that I will watch. Like, what I found interesting here of late is, on my, Facebook, I use Facebook. But on my Facebook page, every once in a while, it'll go, your memories in Facebook. Mm-hmm. And here, over the last few, weeks or so, the show pops up in my memories. It's not, it's not, all of them. However, there were very specific ones that, like the one with Kira, that one popped up. The one with Carl popped up. I think, was it our first one popped up. And, of course, they're, popping up randomly. But I was like, wow. And I have, sat down, and watched it. And I watched a few. And I do a lot of self-critiquing. Like,
oh, I do that too when I watch. Yeah. I noticed I twiddle with my hands a lot. I'm that way too. I'm always, and I notice that even when I speak at organizations, my hands are always moving. I'm like, you need to do something here with your hands. You're always moving.
Or my favorite when I'm looking at myself on the screen, go to the gym. Just go to the gym. You're paying for a membership. Go to the gym.
Oh boy. No, it's all good. So,
It is.
So, before we get into our book today, I got a message from our producer over the weekend, and I don't. You probably didn't have time to look at what I sent you, but he. Let me see if I can find it. I'm really bad at this stuff. I think it was in. Did I get it? He sent me an article. Let me see if I can find it here. Here it is. Mobile apps may offer support for those at risk of suicide. So I read the article, and I decided, and actually I didn't even do this until this morning. I read the article and kind of like pondered it, and so I went into my Google Play Store and searched, let me see if I can do this again, searched suicide prevention. I think is what I did. Suicide prevention app free. And I didn't even realize it. And I don't know why I never even thought about it until he sent me this article, that all these apps geared towards suicide prevention. Some of them are good. Some of them maybe not so good. I haven't had a chance to really look over some of them. I did read some of the reviews on some of them, but I think it's another like avenue of help, I guess. But I think that with all these different apps, that it's kind of like maybe finding a therapist. One isn't going to fit everybody,
Correct.
you know. So, and I'm sure that if you typed in mental health help or, you know, something like that, you probably some of these would pop up with that, and along with some others. But I would say, you know, find something that's going to work for you. There's a lot, you know, there's several on here. There's even one from, what is it, Samson? What is it? Do you remember what
What is
the,
it?
it's here it is. It's a suicide prevention app for primary care and behavioral health providers. Some of the reviews on here are not good, but this is a national organization, and I can't remember exactly what all the...
Samsha?
Yeah.
It is, what is it? Oh, God, you've got me thinking.
I know it in my
We get
head.
so used to saying the acronym
I
that
know.
we don't...
I don't know if it has it on here.
so this-
Maybe it'll...
Folks, we told you, we are so unscripted.
SAMHSA, behavioral health. Yeah, I can't even. But anyways, there's several on here. So,
Substance abuse and mental health services is what it is.
okay.
Yeah,
There,
substance,
Rob just put it up there.
substance abuse and mental health services administration.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one of the, I guess you'd say, national organizations that has an app on here.
SAMHSA is national.
Yeah. So, but like I said, there's several different ones on here, and you know, if you choose to try and use one of these, just, you know, find something that's just going to work for you. It's not going to work for everybody. It's just maybe another tool.
It is another tool. I think for me, when I hear, it brings me to that, I don't know if the word is I want to use, cliche, there's an app for that.
Yeah.
There's, here, there seems to be an app for everything.
Everything.
Which, I would say, and this is my professional side talking. I don't have a problem with apps, per se, because I do find, depending upon what you're using the app for and what the app is, there's some utility and, some usefulness. When we're talking about apps that are specific for, mental health or, suicide prevention, and the like, I would be mindful to, remind individuals or to point out to individuals where, yes, these apps can be useful, they can be helpful, they could, bring you back for the brink. Ensuring that that is not your sole source of support, that is not your sole source of dealing with what's going on. Like, I would say for myself, I can go to, I can go to an app, let's just say, let me use this, something, completely foreign, it's a little different. I joke all the time, like, I need to go to the gym, okay? I can go to the gym that may talk me through, getting on the treadmill or a proper diet and everything like that. I still am going to need, depending upon, certain things, some feedback from my primary care doctor. Mm-hmm. Hey, I need to lose X number of pounds. I need your expert opinion on to tell me, well, A, is this healthy for me or not? And the same thing with, mental health, I'm not, you know, and again, you know, people are like, well, you're a therapist, you know, you're a professional, you would say this. No, I don't, you know, necessarily say that therapy is a fix for everybody, you know, but at least having somebody at your disposal, you know, somebody in your wheelhouse that is not just that app.
Right. No, that's absolutely true. And actually, I don't have any of those. I have several meditation apps on my phone, and that was recommended by my therapist, which I even knew that, but didn't even think about it. And so she steered me towards a couple other ones, and since I've had it, I've added a couple others too. And I'll use different ones at different times, depending on how I'm feeling or what I want to change my mood into, or, you know, whatever.
Oh yeah, like I said, I don't have a,
You know.
you know, I don't have a problem with apps. I just, you know, sometimes people think, I just went to this app and, you know, or I use this app, therefore I don't need anything else.
I agree. An app isn't going to fix everything.
Well, I mean,
But
I
it's-
would say therapy doesn't fix everything.
No, it doesn't.
It's not.
Well, that's what I mean too. Is because, I mean, you need different tools. You know, that's what a toolbox is for. You don't just have one thing in there, right?
Absolutely.
A hammer isn't going to screw in a screw like a screwdriver. Kind of a weird analogy, but it's
No. It you know, it's maybe a weird analogy to someone out there who doesn't understand. You know, who I don't want to say would have a hard time conceptualizing, but I look at it because I use those weird analogies, you know, myself. You know, I think back when I was in the military, we used to have this phrase, the duct tape. But we used to call it 150-mile-an-hour tape. You know, everything's, you know, it will stick, you know, to anything, you know, it will stick at 150 miles an hour, something like that. Basically, you want to fix something, grab some duct tape, and it's, you know, and I look at, you know, apps, therapy, and everything like that is not duct tape. It is not going to fix everything.
No.
You know,
No.
even that duct tape needs some help every once in a while. Just saying. Anyway, I love the rabbit holes we go down.
So,
No,
well,
that's
we can thank our producer for that one. But I thought it was interesting information because, I don't know, it's kind of like something that, it was like, oh yeah, duh, you know, but you don't really think about it unless it's either pointed out to you or repeated, you know, in a different way. Because I do remember several years ago, and I tried to find it, but I didn't have time. And if I can find it before the next show, I remember several years ago there was a young man in the Tampa Bay area that produced an app, and this is, to me, it's at the beginning of all the app craze, but I'm always late to the table when it comes to all this stuff. But he developed an app to help with the mental health community, sending positive quotes. You know, you can go on there and either have them sent to you, positive quotes every day. You know, it was at the beginning of this, and I hope I can find it. He's probably sold it for a lot of money since, but that was at the beginning of this, and that, when John sent me that article, it reminded me of that. And I wish I saved that information back then, because it was, I'm pretty sure it was after Bobby's death when I saw it the first time. But, and we're going to be coming up on 6 years here in a couple of weeks.
You know, the same thing, you know, and I look at apps, the same thing, you know, I look at, you know, finding, you know, a therapist or, you know, someone in the field to talk to, you know, the same I would do with, you know, a doctor, you know, whatever gym you run, you know, a lot of things. It's important that you find one that fits you. It's important that you do your research, you know, on it. You know, it's one thing going to going to an app I was going to a nap. I didn't know. But it's one thing to find, an app that is, put together by, Willie Joe Foo in his back, in his
Right.
basement, who has absolutely no idea about what he was talking about. And an app that is, sponsored or, put together by a, nationally recognized, quote unquote, expert in the field. Now, not to take anything away from, Willie Joe Foo. Willie Joe Foo just might have, that might be a good app. But again, it's important to, that you do your research,
Right.
because sometimes the mom and pop ones, are better than the chain
Right.
stores, and vice versa.
Yeah, but yeah, do your research and just pick something that's going to be a good fit for you. And if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Don't do it. Find something that does. So,
Trial and error.
anyways, so do you remember where we were? We were almost
We were at the end.
We were almost at the end
At
of
our chapter 6, and we're going into chapter 7 of our book, How to Carry What Can't Be Fixed. And I want to say we had left off, we talked about sleep issues. We did not, if I remember, talk about grief nightmares. And just basically, in a nutshell, nightmares suck, as she says here in the book. It's not uncommon to experience, dreams that happen over and over and over again, especially when, to include those dreams that, in which you're telling, they're telling you about the death if, you weren't there, or, I'm not sure if this is happening in your case, or, when I think of, Kira, having, the recurring nightmares of finding.
Yeah, I haven't had any nightmares about that. It's more I have, and it's not really nightmares, but when we have the fire department or EMS driving by my house with all their stuff blaring, freaks me out. But I haven't really had any nightmares. I've had good dreams. I'm glad I haven't had any nightmares, because when you're, it's especially the trauma of being the one to find the person.
And I like what she says here, in terms of, nightmares, where, nightmares are a very necessary part of grief. For me, the one sentence in this particular paragraph that stuck out to me was, when you've had a grief nightmare, instead of analyzing it for hidden messages, you might recognize it and name it as your mind trying hard to process loss. Saying something as simple as repeating to yourself, "My mind is trying to make space for this," can help calm your mind and soothe your nervous system when a grief nightmare wakes you. And I like that because, when I sit back and think about, there are times where, people are like, I had a dream about such and such, so what does that mean? And I don't know how I really feel about, dream analysis or whatnot. Although there are times that, I've woken up, not necessarily a nightmare. Like I had a dream once, and I remember posting this. And like I said, it wasn't a nightmare. I think for me, it was more of a nightmare. And I do the air quotes when I woke up. However, I completely remodeled Patrick's room. Completely remodeled, and it's a project we had started before he left. And but anyway, this dream was he was in the room, and he was, you know, lying across the bed, and he was, you know, talking to Devin, and, you know, he was, you know, telling Devin, you know, how proud he was of, you know, how he was handling, you know, his being gone. And he goes, but I'm back, you know, and I never, you know, I don't want you, you know, to ever worry again, because I'm never going to leave you again. And, you know, fast forward, you know, he's talking to me, and, you know, he's like, you know, hey, I'm sorry I put you guys through this, but I'm back. And, you know, of course, you know, we're ecstatic because, you know, he was back. However, in the dream, there was a unicorn, like a picture of a unicorn on the wall. And I'm asking myself, yeah, when I woke up, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, if only this dream were real, you know, if only he were here saying, you know, if this was all a mistake, I'm back. But I was trying to, you know, I found myself, you know, doing what she said not to do here. And mind you, it wasn't a nightmare. However, what the devil was this unicorn about? Like, where did this unicorn come from? And, you know, so several of my friends, you know, they came back, and several, you know, are doing analysis, you know, to tell me the symbolism, you know, what they, you know, interpret as the symbolism of the unicorn. And it fit, you know, and it was like, it's, you know, it's his way of telling you he's okay, you know, or something like that. It's like, all right. And a friend of his, you know, a friend of his, you know, a friend of ours, I only know her because she was a friend of Pat's, mind you. She does a lot of artsy stuff, so she made me a 3D unicorn.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, you know, my original thought was I was going to hang this in his room, and I didn't. It's hanging in my room. You know, I love carousel, so it's a unicorn horse, so it fits, you know, with the, you know, in the room where the, you know, carousel teams are. But yeah, I think we find too much, you know, we spend too much time. What does this dream mean? What does this dream mean? And not enough time saying, the reason for this dream was, it is my mind trying to process, you know, the loss. It's my mind trying to make sense of what's going on. And, you know, like I said, I love this, what she said. Short, sweet, and to the point.
Yeah, I have kind of one of those dreams too. I'm not going to share it right now. I'm saving it for my book. But in just something kind of short, Bobby came to me and just said, you know, he wasn't in pain anymore. You know, he had MS for 25 years. And then part of it was I wasn't saying anything. And he's like, why aren't you saying anything? And I said, because I'm afraid you're going to leave again. And even now, me saying that, it just brings tears. And it's just, yeah, it's really hard. But when I had that, and I woke up, after I woke up, I wrote down the whole entire everything about it. So one day I'll share it, but yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting that she talks about, you know, we go from a chapter on, what did she name this last chapter?
Rough Roads Ahead.
Rough Roads Ahead to chapter 7, you know, rest and restoration. You know, and she starts it off saying, grief is a long haul. To get through this, you need nurturing, supportive sources of comfort. And she is so spot on with that. You know, because I can't imagine for anybody going on this journey by themselves.
No, you can't.
You know,
it is way too hard.
Well, I would look and say, you know, some people can't. You know, they say they can, and they say they do. But to your point, it is hard. Like, you know, I tend to be a loner. Okay.
I do too, but
Right, and I was going to, throw that. I like my alone time. However, when I think of, going back and to the point that she's saying here, rolling tape backwards, I am so grateful that, I had people during that time that insisted they weren't going to leave me alone, or I wasn't going to be left alone.
Right.
And so I don't care. I don't want you at my, I just leave me be. Just if I, what was my thing? If I need you, I'll call you.
Right.
And from my one team member, what's your address? I'm bringing you food. And I could have very easily, I'm going to say, I'm not giving you, you don't know my address, do you? You don't know my address. If I don't give you it, you don't have to come. And I'm thinking, of course I'm processing, well, I'm not going to be, stubborn like that. Well, she can get it from our supervisor. There's ways to get my address. And I can see them banging on the door, to the sheriff, supervisor. I'm not going to, his deputy or subordinate, he's going to stay with you until the victim advocate gets here. The victim advocate, I'm going to stay with you until, and then, my nephew got there. And then, throughout the whole process, the people that were there and so supportive. And I think back, wow, how different the experience would have been had those people not insisted on being supportive and nurturing, and just there for not what they felt I needed, although, what if at the time I was like, who are they to tell me what I need? It is what I needed, even though I didn't think I needed it at the time.
Right. Yeah, because you really don't know that you need it. It was the same way for me when, and I don't even remember, I think somebody called my aunt. I don't know that I called her. I don't remember, but she called me that night and said that she was coming down. And she was in Oregon. And I was like, no, you don't need to come. I'll be okay. She said, no, I'm coming down. She was here 3 days later and stayed with me for, I think the first time she stayed with me for 2 or 3 weeks. And then the following year she came down and stayed for a month. And, of course I had my neighbor, she was there every single day. I mean, she even went as far, we used to have a 6-foot stockade fence in between our property, and she ended up taking the 6-foot stockade fence down, put a 4-foot fence up so that we have a clear view to each other's property. Right. Yeah, and the next morning I had friends show up at my house, and thank goodness for Rodney and Liz. And Rodney has since passed away. He passed away about 6 months later from cancer, but him and his wife were there that morning to help me figure out the funeral stuff, or the cremation stuff, and because I had no clue what I was going to do. So and being in the community, in business for so long, there was just my aunt. She's like, I cannot believe the steady stream of people, and here I'm in a daze, but yeah, the support that I could not imagine going through this journey without the people that I've had, even still, for the past 6 years. The community that we have is awesome and so supportive, and yeah.
And that is another thing when when you're looking at the caring and the support and whatnot. Some people need the constant support for a year, 2, 3, 5, 10 years after. Some people. I was talking to my sister, but another family member, and it was like. The day of, the day of the death, getting the service together, and then after the service, everything was back to normal. And I'm like, I'm glad you could do that, I mean, there are some people who,
Some people, yeah.
are able to just bounce right back, and I don't begrudge them that. And there are other people who, I use the word we, not necessarily, when you guys, I hope you guys understand when I say we, I'm not, talking, we, me specific, or we, us, we, it's a universal term, but some people are, we're able to bounce right back just like that. It's like, I almost look at it, once the casket's closed, everything else is closed, I'm good to go. There are other people we, need a little bit longer, but a year later, we're still okay, we're getting back to normal. Some people it's 10 years later. Other people, you might feel okay, we might be okay here, but then on those anniversaries, the birthday of, the person that's lost, we get emotional about that. The death anniversary, that would make certain, events, certain smells, trigger something. And again, I know I like the idea, that of having a group, a person or a group of people on speed dial that, I'm having a moment, regardless of I think it's important, that, you keep, who is that support for you.
Oh, I'll get every once in a while on some of those days, my neighbor will call me and she goes, welfare check. And I'm like, I'm okay. I have to tell her, she can tell by the tone of my voice, but yeah, she'll even just call that morning and say, okay, checking on you, what's going on, how you doing, which is good. I don't know if I think you might try this. She has this section here, message in a bottle. Mm-hmm. Sometimes an unexpected note can change your whole day, bringing a little bit of ease or even humor to a rough patch. And she has in here postcards that you can cut out of the book or you can copy. Bonnie won't tear anything out of her book, but actually on the website for this book, I think I hope Rob got the images. Actually, I printed them out on my printer to see if it would work, and I didn't know my printer printed both sides at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So actually, oh yeah, I do have them right here. I forgot. So you can write on these, address them to yourself, and send them to yourself. Give them to a friend, and have them periodically mail you one.
I like this. On this one, I liked when she said, "Some things cannot be fixed; they can only be carried." And to me, I found that to be, so profound, because what I find with grief and loss and not just grief and loss, but other mental health challenges is people labor under that belief system that I need you to fix me. I want this to be fixed. When the reality is there is no fix for it. It is, if I go back to, I think it was this book where, with the vase, and it's like you look at the vase and there's a crack in it. And it's like you're looking at this vase and you don't see any imperfections, but if you look real close,
yeah, because we didn't notice it
right,
before.
you see the crack.
Yeah, with a Band-Aid over it.
Yeah, and I love, that this, says that, even though, things happen, there's a potential that there's always going to be this reminder for it. However, it's important that, you remind yourself that, when I'm, doing grief groups, I use, my surgical scars, as, to kind of illustrate the same thing, that same point that she's using here, I remember getting wheeled into the emergency room. I remember I remember the doctor explaining the procedure, getting wheeled into the emergency room. I remember waking up in recovery in excruciating pain, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, I've got, a surgical cut. I've got, I think one was like 14. I've got 14 staples. I hated the staples. And this is going to hurt like heck for a while. However, over time, the staples got removed. The wound healed. Now, every time I look, where the surgeries are, I look down and I see a reminder that, I remember when this happened. I remember when this happened. I remember, the pain of this, but guess what? I still may carry the scar. It doesn't hurt anymore. And I find that grief, or loss, I should say grief, well, grief and loss, in some ways works just like that. We are always going to carry the loss of our loved one inside us. Over time, there might be that twinge of that pain may be there, but it is not as deep or as bad as it was in the beginning.
Well, and remember one of Dr. Wolfeld's famous sayings that we really like is there's never closure.
Right.
Closure is for windows and doors.
I've never, and what's interesting is, I thought the heavens had opened when I heard him say that. I'm like, oh my gosh, he said it out loud. And this is, again, this is one of the experts in the field. I'd never really equated, closure and pain and whatnot. Even though someone would be like, well, wait a minute, if you have closure, you don't feel any pain anymore. I'm like, well, maybe so. I see where you're coming from. What is closure?
There is no such thing. But I like a couple of the other postcards that are available here. May there be a tiny island of peace inside your day. And then the other one actually kind of goes with the vase is a hand holding a heart with the Band-Aid over it.
And I do like the idea of what she says here is, to write a love letter to yourself, write a note to yourself, and then, whether you strategically place it somewhere where you can find it later on or give it to somebody, it's like when you think that I'm feeling down, hand me this note, to remind me. We do at our work postcards of encouragement. I do a lot of substance addiction stuff. So for people in recovery, we'll write. We'll give these cards to people in the community, and they'll give it back. Or like people that are in recovery. We'll write notes of encouragement to people who are struggling. Hey, you got this.
Right.
Hey, I just want to let you know that you are, a beautiful soul, and whatnot. And it's amazing the power that these little postcards can have.
Yeah, we've got some more stuff, just a few more things that we can finish up probably next week with this chapter. But I'll put the link to these little things that she adds for this book and some of the pictures.
I need to invest in a printer like yours.
I thought, really, because when I did, it's the first time I did it that way, I really thought that I'd have to go in and I'd have to turn it over, So I started printing it, and then I kind of forgot. I went to a networking meeting, and I came home, and I'm like, oh, yeah. And I go to the printer, and I was like, oh, cool. Did it both at the same time.
We'll talk about that one off camera, because,
I didn't know.
We'll finish up the book, or this chapter, next week, but as we close up, we always remind you, to keep the numbers for, the crisis numbers, nearby, or, more importantly, put them in your phone because you never know when you might need them. Educate and remind yourself on the remarkable resources that we have here in the community, or your community, whether it is a group or a person. Groups are popping up, all over for, grief and loss, and and coping, and just support. And you don't have to talk in these groups. Just go.
You can
and
just go, yeah.
listen to somebody else's story.
Right, and we're getting more resources. Thankfully, we have a lot more than what we had 6 years ago. I'm so grateful for that. We have these posters available at the foundation. I actually gave out about a half a dozen of them today to some people at businesses in the community to put up. You can put them up in the restrooms or put them up in your employee break rooms. Our positive quote for today is,
Grief is itself a medicine. And I love that. I found that was very fitting to the last couple of chapters, because, grief does not always have to be looked at as something negative, as something, dark, as something that we will never overcome. It's a process.
well, and I've sort of seen it said that it's the price of love.
Yes.
So
And remember,
there's always hope. Thank you.